A talented actor can embody a character so fully that it becomes impossible to picture them any other way. But Hollywood is a world of internal politics and back-alley deals, and there are often numerous actors considered for the same role. So what happens when an A-list actor turns down a part that goes on to be a cinema classic? Today we're looking at actors who nearly played famous characters. For serious Lord of the Rings fans, it's hard to imagine Aragorn being played by anyone other than Viggo Mortensen, the Danish-American actor who has been nominated for 3 Academy Awards, 3 BAFTA Awards, and 4 Golden Globe Awards. But it turns out that Russell Crowe turned down the role after director Peter Jackson offered it to him. In a recent interview with Howard Stern to promote his Showtime Roger Ailes miniseries The Loudest Voice, the Oscar-winning actor explained why he said no to the blockbuster franchise, which would have resulted in a massive payday. Apparently, he was not only offered the massive role, but also a whopping 10% of the back-end gross profit, which would have come to more than $100 million. According to Crowe, "I didn't think Peter Jackson actually wanted me on the film," said Crowe, "because I think he was forced into talking to me, because there was a moment in time where everybody wanted me in everything. And he's a fellow New Zealander, and so I can hear his voice. And it's like, I don't think he even knows what I've done. My instinct was that he had somebody else in mind, which turned out to be Viggo, and he should be able to hire the actor that he wants. Perhaps it was a misstep on the part of Crowe, but it's likely we'll never know." Forrest Gump is easily one of Tom Hanks' most iconic roles, so it's almost surreal to imagine John Travolta in his place. But it turns out Travolta had a pretty good alibi to turn down his role as Forrest Gump. He had just been offered a leading role in Quentin Tarantino's undisputed classic Pulp Fiction, which led to a resurgence in his career after many years since hits like Grease and Saturday Night Fever. But it's worth mentioning that Forrest Gump went on to dominate the 67th Academy Awards. Perhaps most notably, Hanks won his second Best Actor Oscar, something which clearly rankled Travolta, who admitted afterward he regretted not taking the role of Gump. With that said, it's hard to imagine the film being quite as successful with the addition of Travolta. Though he is a talented actor in his own right, the film feels tailor-made to Hanks. These days, Hanks is still an A-list actor, whereas Travolta has been involved in scandals with the Church of Scientology and has been forced to accept demeaning roles in films like Old Dogs and Wild Hogs. It's funny to imagine how each of these actors' careers would have changed if their roles were switched. Al Pacino was a totally anonymous actor when he was cast in Francis Ford Coppola's classic The Godfather. In fact, he was only paid $35,000 because he had virtually no other acting credits before this film. But of course, the film went on to become one of the most commercially and critically successful movies in history, and it proved to be Pacino's breakout role. But it turns out he was not even the first choice for the film. Jack Nicholson admitted in a 2004 interview with Movie Line that he passed on the iconic role because he knew it wasn't his to play. "Back then, I believed that Indians should play Indians and Italians should play Italians. There were a lot of actors who could have played Michael, myself included, but Al Pacino was Michael Corleone. I can't think of a better compliment to pay him." Al Pacino did not want to star as Michael Corleone in seminal gangster epic The Godfather, and considered director Francis Ford Coppola a bit mad for insisting he take the role. Film historians have long documented the fact that the unknown Pacino beat famous rivals, including Jack Nicholson, Robert Redford, and Warren Beatty, as well as a then little-known Robert De Niro, for the role which made him famous. When Titanic came out in 1997, it quickly became the highest-grossing film of all time, with a worldwide box office of over $1.8 billion. By some measures, it was the most viewed movie in human history, meaning that its stars, Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio, began a meteoric rise to A-list actor status. But in reality, the role of Rose almost went to Gwyneth Paltrow. She was reportedly one of the final 2 actresses being considered for the role, which ultimately went to Kate Winslet, and earned her a Best Actress nomination at the Oscars. Paltrow, in an interview with Howard Stern, makes it clear that she didn't turn the role down, which is a common misconception. "I know that the story is that I turned it down. I think I was really in contention for it. I was one of the last 2. I look back at the choices I've made and think, why the hell did I say yes to that and no to that? And you look at the big picture and think there's a universal lesson here. What good is it to hold on to roles?" Because Johnny Depp has been one of Hollywood's hottest actors for many decades, there are numerous roles that he turned down, including starring roles in The Matrix, Speed, Ghost Rider, Hulk, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. While each of these action movies are funny to picture with Depp in the lead role, perhaps the strangest movie in which he was billed to star was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The seminal slacker film is beloved by generations and is easily Matthew Broderick's most successful movie, but Johnny Depp turned the role down due to a scheduling conflict. It's safe to say the movie wouldn't be the icon it is today without Matthew Broderick's brilliant performance in the legendary John Hughes film. Other contenders included Rob Lowe, John Cusack, Robert Downey Jr., and Michael J. Fox. This just goes to show how much indecision there is behind the scenes in Hollywood. In the end, it probably didn't hurt Depp's career very much, as he has continued to get classic roles all throughout the 2000s. For Broderick, however, this was a huge break that proved to be the single biggest movie of his career. Though Al Pacino beat out Jack Nicholson for the role of Michael Corleone in The Godfather, he then went on to pass up another one of cinema's most classic characters. After the success of The Godfather, he was offered a role in the new science fiction movie from a then unknown director. The director was George Lucas, and the role was Han Solo in the much-revered Star Wars franchise. I remember not understanding the script when I read it, he told MTV at the Toronto Film Festival. I was in The Godfather. They didn't care if I was right or wrong for the role, if I could act or not act. Although Pacino jokingly described his 1975 decision as another missed opportunity, he was not the only actor considered before Harrison Ford took the part. Jack Nicholson, Robert De Niro, Burt Reynolds, and James Caan were all courted. For Harrison Ford, this was easily one of the biggest roles of his life, perhaps tied with Indiana Jones, and he is surely thankful to this day that Pacino passed on the project. Back before James Cameron was known as one of the most successful filmmakers of all time, he was a sci-fi filmmaker attempting to create a big-budget blockbuster about a cruise ship sinking 100 years ago. The film was Titanic, and it quickly became the most popular movie in history. In a recent interview with Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show, Cameron was asked about a rumor that he auditioned Matthew McConaughey for the role of Jack in Titanic, but the actor passed on the film. While clearing up that rumor, the filmmaker gave fans the real reason that DiCaprio was chosen for the role. I just need everyone to back up for a second and realize not everything you hear on the internet is true, Cameron said. He continued, Matthew read for the part, and then we met Leo. Leo came in for an interview, and I had this weird thing. I looked around the room, and every woman in the building was in the meeting. Normally, you meet with an actor and you're one-on-one in an office. The accountant was there and the female security guard. Maybe I should cast this guy. And McConaughey weighed in as well. I wanted that, he admitted. I auditioned with Kate Winslet. Had a good audition. Walked away from there pretty confident that I had it. I didn't get it. I never got offered that. Twilight might have premiered more than a decade ago, but the legacy of the film franchise lives on. Though it might seem virtually impossible to picture anyone other than Robert Pattinson as Edward Cullen or Kristen Stewart as Bella Swan, if casting directors would have paid attention to Stephenie Meyer's original requests, there would have been an entirely different cast. The author of this super lucrative franchise had very specific actors in mind when she was approached by producers about adapting the books into movies. Though she had plenty of choices in mind for other characters, her pick for Edward Cullen was pretty set in stone. The only actor I've ever seen who I think could come close to pulling off Edward Cullen is Henry Cavill, she revealed. Cavill went on to play Superman in DC's extended universe, and his career has been fine without the Twilight franchise. And Robert Pattinson, who was ultimately cast as Edward, did the role justice, though he has been vocally disdainful regarding the part in recent years. Lindsay Lohan was once the epitome of a teen star. With roles in movies like Freaky Friday, Parent Trap, and Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, she was comfortably solidified as an A-list actor. But then came a debaucherous period of drugs, tabloids, and plastic surgery. These days, she has a reality show and is almost completely removed from the world of acting. But it turns out the star once had a chance to revitalize her career in the modern classic comedy The Hangover. Director Todd Phillips addressed the rumor about Lindsay Lohan turning down the role of the stripper, later filled by Heather Graham, a role which she says now she was too young to play. People love to attack her for everything. Like, she didn't see how great The Hangover was going to be, she turned it down, said the director of Old School and The Joker. She didn't turn it down. She loved the script, actually. It really was an age thing. Lindsay was just 20 when casting began for the film, and Heather was already 37. Taron Egerton may have drawn raves and cans for his portrayal of Elton John in Rocket Man, but he wasn't the initial actor envisioned by the legend. In fact, the first person Sir Elton thought of to portray him was none other than Justin Timberlake. The former NSYNC singer had previously portrayed John in the music video for This Train Don't Stop There Anymore in 2001. However, the movie was never discussed with Timberlake. We never formally approached Justin because we were never at a stage where it was the right time to approach him, John's husband explained. The video for This Train Don't Stop There Anymore stars Justin Timberlake as Elton John at the height of his popularity in the 1970s, and shows Elton John going through hair and makeup, making his ways through throngs of adoring fans, and going to a lavish party. The former NSYNC singer wears a prosthetic nose in the video and looks nothing like the JT we are used to seeing. Regardless, this would have been a huge opportunity for Timberlake, who is currently promoting his comeback album.